There's a lot going on right now. We had a banned and restricted list update, Duskmourn previews are in full swing. How are card prices responding? Let's find out. This video is sponsored by Flipside Gaming. Check out flipsidegaming.com for all your gaming needs. Right now you can pre-order Duskmourn House of Horror or find a vast number of other great products on their website. Remember, shipping is free in the US if your order is over $100 or consists only of singles. Just look in the description or comment section below for direct links to their site. Hey there, this is John from Heroes and Legends, and welcome to another edition of the Magic the Gathering Market Watch. Like I alluded to in the cold open, there are a lot of factors impacting card prices this week, so we're going to be looking at the top 20 hottest cards instead of our normal top 10. As always, our list is based on two things: the percentage increase in the value of the cards, but we also want to see a true increase in the number of sales from week to week too. Quickly before we get into the list, a couple things. I do want to say thank you to two of our viewers who gave super thanks tips last week. Those are Joseph Capitani and Todd Branch. Thank you both for all your support you've given the channel. I truly appreciate everything you do, the tips, the comments, everything. So thank you both very much. And I also want to say thank you to one of our gold patrons, that is Mark Vonbank. Mark's been a gold patron for quite some time, and again, thank you, Mark. I really appreciate everything you do. I always enjoy reading your comments every week too in the comments section, so thank you. And now, without any further ado, let's get into it. Coming in at number 20 is Drum Bellower. This is up 206 to 782. That's a 36% increase. This is from the Kamigawa Neon Dynasty Buckle Up Commander deck. It was seeing a good amount of Commander play, typically in builds around Shorikai Genesis Engine from its pre-con, but recently Drum Bellower has been moving up because it's getting additional Commander play around a card from Bloomburrow. That is Balin the Haymaker. The two cards play perfectly together, but there is another reason that some players are interested in Drum Bellower now. We have seen from some of the Duskmourn previews that there is a tapped matters element in the set. Here are a couple examples in the form of Glimmer Seeker and Veteran Survivor. Drum Bellower will be a way to untap creatures that you may have wanted to have tapped for your second main phase in order to get extra value. Number 19, Consigned to Memory, up 217 to 599. That's a 57% increase. This Modern Horizons 3 Uncommon is seeing play in a bunch of formats, and it's in lots of highly played decks. Just last week, we had a pretty significant banned and restricted list update that impacted Pioneer, Modern, Legacy, and Vintage. That has led to some upheaval in those formats, and many players are building new decks or revising existing ones. This card happens to see play in 3 out of those 4 formats in quite a few builds, which is why it's so hot right now. In Modern, Consigned to Memory is in tons of decks, sometimes in the main, sometimes in the sideboard. The two most popular builds in the meta currently running it are Dimir Murktide and Jeskai Control. It's a huge legacy card too in many decks there. 3 of the most popular builds using it in that format include Grixis Tempo, 4-Color Zenith, and Beanstalk Control. You'll find Consigned to Memory in the sideboards of all those decks. Same story in Vintage. You see Consigned in several decks there. The two most played ones right now are Oath of Druids and Lurrus Saga, where you find the card in sideboards typically. Finally, this gets a small amount of Commander play too, but recently it has seen a little more in builds around a Bloomburrow card, Aluge, the Shoreless Sea. Coming in at number 18 is Cut Down. It's up 222 to 616. That's a 56% increase. This has become a staple in the recently rotated standard format, which is a big reason why we're seeing this price jump. Initially, we saw standard aggro decks becoming dominant, so Cut Down has been a highly sought after card. The most popular decks running this currently are Golgari Midrange, Dimir Midrange, Rakdos Lizards, and Orzhov Midrange. Meanwhile, in Pioneer, you see Cut Down in Golgari Midrange, Dimir Control, and sometimes Mono Black Discard. Remember, Pioneer just saw 2 big cards banned in the form of Amalia Benavides Aguirre, as well as Sorin Imperious Bloodlord, and the meta is still adjusting. Cut Down does show up in Commander 2, in fact it's seeing a little more play there in a couple builds around Bloomburrow cards, Vren the Relentless, and Maha Its Feathers Knight. Number 17, Ebony Fly, up 234 to 525, that's an 80% increase. This is found in both Planar Portal and Aura of Courage Adventures in Forgotten Realms Commander decks. For a long time this card was only seeing a little Commander play, sometimes it would show up in Kozilek the Great Distortion for example. But a few months back, the Fallout Hal Caesar Commander deck brought us a card that cared about die rolls. That, of course, was Mr. House President and CEO. Because of that card, Ebony Fly took off in March. Even though the market has moved on from cards found in those Mr. House Commander decks in most cases, Ebony Fly dries up a little bit this week, leading to a price jump. Coming in at number 16 is Kill Switch, up $2.51 to $6.51. That is a 63% increase. This one print wonder was number 13 on our hot list last week. It has been getting increased commander play and builds around a new card from Bloomburrow, which is why it's been jumping. The card I'm referring to is Igra, Eater of All. Kill Switch will let you tap down your opponent's creatures after Igra makes them food artifacts in addition to their other types. Number 15, Temporary Lockdown. It goes up $2.67 to $9.20. That's a 41% increase, and this was the number 12 card on our hot list 2 weeks ago. Last week it was number 10. It is seeing a tad bit of commander play. Sometimes it's in Sithis Harvest hand builds, for example, but commander is not the key driver here. Temporary Lockdown is getting a ton of play in Standard, plus it's appearing a fair amount in Pioneer and Modern. Remember, we had recent changes to both Pioneer and Modern, and this card is seeing more Pioneer play in that new meta. It's found in a bunch of decks there, like the popular Hidden Strings, and many times you see it in Azorius Control as well. In Modern's new meta, this is in Bant Control, Bant Midrange, and Mono White Midrange. But don't forget about another format that's gone through a lot of upheaval recently, Standard. Temporary Lockdown is in some big decks there, including Domain, Boros Token Control, Orzhov Midrange, Azorius Control, Mono White Token Control, Azorius Artifacts, and sometimes Jeskai Control. And you may remember that a Boros Token Control build came in first place at the MTG Japan Open a few weeks ago. That version of the deck was running 2 copies of Temporary Lockdown in the main and 1 in the sideboard. Ultimately, this is a card sought after by several different types of players, which has led to the recent price increases. Number 14 is Bristlebud Farmer. It goes up $2.93 to $8.01 for a 62% increase. This is from Outlaws of Thunder Junctions, the Big Score subset, so it was a more difficult pull than a card from the main set. It has recently seen an increase in commander play thanks to Bloomburrow. Some players have gotten this to upgrade the Squirreled Away commander deck, while others put it in fresh builds around the front-facing commander from there, Hazel of the Root Bloom. It's also in decks around a couple cards from the Bloomburrow main set though. Camellia the Seed Miser is one, but the other one has really been pushing the price of Bristlebud Farmer, and that is Igra, Eater of All, for obvious reasons. But there is a little more to the story as well. A week ago, Brian Kibler posted that he had been purchasing several copies of Bristlebud Farmer, which brought some attention to the card. And not too long ago, through preview cards, we learned that Delirium would be playing a substantial role in Duskmourn. That led to even more interest in Bristlebud Farmer. Here are some examples of what I'm referring to when it comes to the Duskmourn previews. First, we have Winter Cynical Opportunist from the Death Toll commander deck, and here's 3 cards from the main set: Demonic Council, Fear of Missing Out, the official Magic card of Heroes and Legends, and Winter Misanthropic Guide. Lucky number 13 is Krark Clan Shaman. This is up $3.05 to $6.55. That is an 87% increase. Modern Horizons 3 recently upended the Pauper format, but Pauper was not hit by any changes in the latest Banned and Restricted List update. That cleared the path for some players to move forward with their deck selections, and this card is in some popular ones there. You see it in Grixis Affinity, Mardu Synthesizer, and sometimes Broodscale Combo. Also, some players and speculators are keeping an eye on this card because of Duskmourn previews. There appears to be a Death by 1,000 cut strategy in this set, and some think Krark Clan Shaman may be good in a Gyerson Starn Kellermorph commander build with cards like Razorkin Needlehead and Screaming Nemesis. We'll have to see what else Duskmourn holds on that front. At the end of the day though, Krark Clan Shaman may be a common, but it is also a one-print wonder from 2003 and not always the easiest card to find. Coming in at number 12 is Murktide Regent. The list copy is of $328 to $19.99, that's a 20% increase. The Modern Horizons 2 copies of $339 to $19.38, that is a 21% increase. Well, last week, Nadu, Winged Wisdom, and Grief were both banned in Modern, and Grief was also banned in Legacy. Murktide Regent was a good card in those formats, but now it looks even better in those revised metas. Dimir Murktide is shaping up to be one of the big Modern decks going forward, and this is in other builds there too, like Grixis Murktide, Is It Murktide, Is It Control, and Sultai Murktide. Similar story in Legacy as well. Murktide Regent is in the highly played Grixis Tempo build, and it sees playing other decks there too, like Beanstalk Control, Doomsday, Is It Delver, and Temur Delver. Ultimately, the Modern and Legacy meta changes have resulted in more demand on this already solid card. Number 11 is Psychic Frog. It goes up $3.41 to $13.71. That's a 33% increase. Very similar story here as the previous card. It was seeing a lot of play in Modern, Legacy, and Vintage, but now with the recent changes, Psychic Frog is getting even more play, especially in Legacy, where it's seeing a pretty big surge. Now, I mentioned the update that occurred in Modern and Legacy, but Vintage got hit too. Urza's Saga as well as Vexing Bauble were both restricted there. In Vintage, you see Psychic Frog now in Sultai Midrange, Lurrus Saga, Doomsday, and Scam. In the new Legacy meta, this is in the popular Grixis Tempo build, and it's in other decks too, like Reanimator, Doomsday, Beanstalk Control, Death Shadow, Dimir Delver, and Grixis Control. Meanwhile, over in Modern, Psychic Frog is in the wildly popular Dimir Murktide deck, and it's in other builds in that format as well. Goryo's Vengeance, Death Shadow, Grixis Murktide, Dimir Midrange, Sultai Murktide, and Crabvine. As if that wasn't enough to make this card jump, Psychic Frog has also seen a bump in Commander play recently around a card from Bloomburrow. That is Glarb, Calamity's Augur. Quickly before we get to our top 10, just a fast reminder, this video is sponsored by Flipside Gaming. Check out flipsidegaming.com for all your gaming needs. Right now you can pre-order Duskmourn House of Horror products, also pick up a whole lot of other MTG products there like Bloomburrow, plus they have things that aren't even MTG related. Remember, if your order is over $100 or consists only of singles, shipping will be free in the United States. Also, if you're looking for a direct link to their site, just check out the description or the comment section below. I do have links posted in both of those places. And now, without any further ado, let's get to the top 10. Coming in at number 10 is Rafellos Llanowar Emissary. It is up 376 to 2686, that's a 16% increase. This reserve list card doesn't see much play to speak of, but it is creeping up. Why is that? Well, Rafellos is banned in Commander, but recently Top Decks, which is a group that organizes large competitive Commander tournaments, discussed making their own ban list for these events. This is one of the cards that they felt could be unbanned. We'll have to see if they decide to move forward with this idea, but for now, some players and speculators are preemptively picking up this and some other cards. Number 9 is Parallax Tide from Nemesis, up 381 to 1536, that's a 33% increase. This Nemesis copy is the only tournament legal printing of the card, and it has been dry online. First, this does see a little Commander play, sometimes it's in Memnarch builds for example, but the format making Parallax Tide jump right now is actually pre-modern. There's a Parallax Replenish deck that has been performing well in the format, and it runs 3 or 4 copies of this. That extra demand on an already scarce card led to the price jump you see here. Coming in at number 8 is Gyerson Starn Kellermorph, up 515 to 1721, that's a 43% increase. This is from the Warhammer 40k Tyranid Swarm Commander deck. It remains a very popular commander, and it's in the 99 of a few builds there, like Nekusar the Mindraiser, for example. But like I mentioned earlier, there are a couple Duskmourn previews that have people speculating on Gyerson. Again, those preview cards are Razorkin Needlehead and Screaming Nemesis. If we see more preview cards that can ping for one, Gyerson could gain more momentum. Lucky number 7 is Flage, Titan of Fire's Fury. This goes up 593 to 3402, that's a 21% increase. This does get some play as a commander, but the format responsible for the spike you see here is again modern. This has quickly become a highly played card in the format, and it's showing up in some huge decks in the new modern meta. It's in the wildly popular Boros Energy build, as well as Mardu Energy, Jeskai Control, Domain Zoo, Jeskai Energy, 4-color Omnith, and Mardu Midrange. Number 6, Ocelot Pride, up 683 to 5398, that's a 14% increase. This is in Legacy Mono White Initiative, but you guessed it, the new modern meta is the key driver here. It's another card in that Boros Energy deck, as well as other builds like Mardu Energy, Jeskai Energy, Mardu Midrange, Naya Energy, Boros Convoke, and Selesnya Life Gain. Plus, Aspiring Spike was playing a Selesnya Birthing Ritual build this week that was running 4 copies of Ocelot Pride in the main. The deck looked good, so we'll have to keep an eye on it. This card also gets a lot of commander play too though. It's in Necrobloom builds for example, and it has been seeing additional play in that format thanks to Bloomburrow. Some have grabbed this to upgrade Family Matters, the commander deck, not the TV show. Others have put it in fresh builds around the front-facing commander from there, Zinnia Valley's Voice. Ocelot Pride is also seeing a good amount of play in decks around a card from the Bloomburrow main set, Balin the Haymaker. It's worth noting too though that we're seeing some Duskmourn previews that may be driving traffic towards Ocelot Pride as well. It appears that the set is bringing us a life gain strategy where you are encouraged to use life as a resource in black. Here are some previews that allude to this: Enduring Tenacity, Fear of Lost Teeth, and Valgavoth Terror Eater. We'll have to see how much more support there is for the strategy as previews unfold. Our number 5 card this week is Through the Breach. The Champions of Kamigawa copy is up 518 to $23.99. That is a 29% increase. The Ultimate Masters copy is up 701 to $14.91. That's an 89% increase. This was our number 3 hottest card last week, remains hot this week. It's in Legacy Sneak and Breach, but the real story this time again is Modern. It's in a new Eldrazi-centric version of Through the Breach there. That deck runs a bunch of new cards from Modern Horizons 3. Since the banned and restricted list update, the deck has been gaining even more momentum, and it has put up some strong results. Hence, Through the Breach's price jump. Number 4 is Archangel Elspeth, up 852 to $13.99. That is a 156% increase. This does see some commander play in different builds like Marnius Kelgar for example, but standard is the key driver this time. Archangel Elspeth is in that Boros token control build I mentioned earlier. In fact, the version of the deck that came in first place at the MTG Japan Open was running 2 copies of this in the main. You see the card in other builds in the format too though, like Mono White token control, Orzhov token control, Esper token control, and sometimes Jeskai control. Our number 3 card this week is Grove of the Burn Willows. The iconic Masters copy goes up 745 to $16.40. That's an 83% increase. The Future Sight copy is up $12.64 to $32.99. That's a 62% increase. I won't bury the lead here. The main reason this is spiking is because there are 4 copies of it in the Modern Through the Breach deck we discussed a moment ago. Although Grove of the Burn Willows is seeing more commander play now too because of Bloomburrow. Some have been adding it to the animated army deck, while others have been putting it in fresh builds around the front facing commander from there. Bello, Bard of the Brambles. Coming in at number 2, the runner-up this time is the One Ring. It goes up $24.60 to $124.60. That's a 25% increase. Well, here's a card that's all over the place. Many thought it would be banned in the Modern format last week. That belief suppressed its price a bit, but it didn't happen, and now the card is jumping up. In Modern, the One Ring is in almost every deck now. The most popular builds running it, though, are Through the Breach, Eldrazi Tron, and Jeskai Control. It gets a lot of legacy play, too. The highest play decks running it there are Mystic Forge Combo and Sneak and Show. Plus, you see this in Vintage Jewel shops, and it gets a ton of commander play, too. The One Ring is in numerous builds in that format. One popular one is Sauron the Dark Lord. And finally, coming in at number 1 is Fast Bond from Revised. It goes up $32.55 to $49.99. That's a 187% increase if you're doing the math at home. This is another reserve list card that doesn't see much play to speak of currently, but it is also a card that the Top Decks tournament organizers said they would consider unbanning for their competitive commander tournaments. Again, we don't know if they're going to really run with their own ban list, but since they are considering it, we are seeing copies of Fast Bond being bought up by players and speculators alike. Since other copies of this card are pretty difficult to find in high grade, the revised one is seeing the biggest percentage increase right now. Alright, that's going to do it for our top 20 cards. A lot happening right now, obviously, with that banned and restricted list update. Before that, we had standard rotation. I assume those metas will start solidifying a little more in the coming weeks, but we also have Duskmourn previews coming at us, so who knows. Beyond that, though, there are some cards going down in value, actually some pretty good ones, and we're going to look at those in our next episode of the Market Watch, which will come out tomorrow. That is our episode where we feature the 10 coldest cards of the week. Don't miss that. Until next time, that way, thanks for watching. Please remember to like and subscribe, and have a great day. Hey, thanks for watching. This video is made possible through the generous support of viewers like you on Patreon. Check out the description below for links to our Patreon page, as well as our Amazon affiliate store, where a small percentage of all sales will also help support the channel. Finally, if you haven't had a chance yet to subscribe, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any of the new videos on Heroes and Legends. Talk to you again soon, and have a great day.